Have you ever walked through a cemetery and wondered how they came to be? These quiet, peaceful places have a surprisingly turbulent and fascinating history. For most of human history, we didn't have cemeteries as we know them today. People were buried wherever was convenient in their own backyards, on the family farm, or in communal pits. But the most common place, especially in Europe, was the churchyard. For centuries, being buried in the consecrated ground of a church was the ultimate goal. It was believed to bring you closer to God and offer a better chance at resurrection. The closer you were to the church building itself, the more prestigious your burial plot. The wealthy and influential were often interred right under the church floor, while the common folk were laid to rest outside. But this system had a major, and rather grim, problem. As cities grew, so did the number of deaths. Churchyards started to overflow. We're talking about centuries of burials piling up in the same small plots of land. Graves were often shallow and reused. As new bodies went in, old remains were dug up and unceremoniously tossed into charnel houses, bone repositories that became macabre tourist attractions. The ground level of some churchyards in London and Paris rose several feet higher than the surrounding streets, packed dense with human remains. This wasn't just disrespectful, it was a massive public health crisis. The smell was unbearable, and decomposing matter would seep into the local water supply, contaminating wells and spreading diseases like typhoid and cholera. The situation in Paris was particularly dire. The famous Les Innocents cemetery was so packed that in 1780, a cellar wall adjoining the cemetery collapsed, spilling a grotesque wave of decomposing bodies and mud into a neighboring property. This was the final straw. The public outcry, combined with the new scientific understanding of hygiene and disease transmission during the Enlightenment, forced a radical change. The authorities in Paris decided to close all inner-city cemeteries. But what would they do with the millions of bodies already there? Their solution was as ingenious as it was eerie. They decided to move the remains to a series of abandoned limestone quarries underneath the city. Over several years, a massive and solemn operation took place. Every night, processions of carts, draped in black and led by priests, would transport the bones from the city's cemeteries to their new underground home. This created the Paris catacombs, which today hold the remains of over 6 million people. The bones aren't just piled up. They are artistically arranged in walls and patterns, a haunting memorial to the city's past. This movement sparked a revolution in how we think about death and burial. It led to the birth of the modern cemetery. The first of its kind was Père Lachaise in Paris, opened in 1804. It was designed not just as a place for the dead, but as a park for the living. It was located outside the city center, on a spacious, beautiful piece of land with winding paths, lush greenery, and elaborate monuments. This was a radical departure from the cramped, false-smelling churchyards. Père Lachaise was conceived as a romantic, peaceful garden where people could stroll, reflect, and remember their loved ones in a dignified setting. Initially, Parisians were hesitant. The idea of being buried so far from a church felt wrong. So, in a brilliant marketing move, the administrators had the remains of famous figures like the lovers Abelard and Heloise, and later Molière and La Fontaine, reinterred there. Suddenly, everyone wanted a spot in this fashionable new city of the dead. This garden cemetery movement quickly spread across the globe. In England, London's magnificent 7 cemeteries were built to tackle the same overcrowding problem. In the United States, Mount Auburn Cemetery in Cambridge, Massachusetts, established in 1831, became the model. It was a beautiful, sprawling landscape that also served as a public park, an art museum, and a horticultural garden. People would visit not just to mourn, but to picnic, socialize, and enjoy nature. These cemeteries became some of America's first public parks, Long before places like Central Park were even conceived, cemeteries became a reflection of Victorian culture's intricate relationship with death. Tombstones evolved from simple markers to elaborate works of art. Symbolism was everywhere: a broken column for a life cut short, a sleeping baby for an infant, an anchor for hope, the choice of stone, the style of the monument, and the epitaph all told a story about the deceased and their family's status. Over the 20th century, however, things began to change again. The rise of a more secular society, the high cost of burial plots, and the growing popularity of cremation led to a shift. The lawn cemetery, with its flat, uniform markers, became more common, prized for its ease of maintenance over the elaborate sculptures of the past. Today, we're seeing another evolution. Green burials, memorial forests, and even digital legacies are changing how we commemorate our dead. So the next time you find yourself in a cemetery, take a closer look. You're not just in a burial ground. You're in a living museum. Each stone is a chapter in a much larger story, a story of faith, family, art, public health, and how our relationship with death itself has shaped the world around us. From crowded churchyards to sprawling garden landscapes and now to digital memorials, the way we care for our dead tells us so much about how we choose to live. Thanks for watching, and if you found this history as fascinating as I do, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories hidden in plain sight.